column-based budget that's going to show revenue. And it's going to say, oh, what's our revenue if we have 5 full-time clients? What happens if we start one each month over these months? What happens if we have 2 full-time clients and we're adding, 2 part-time
Mhm.
clients a month? How does that map itself out from a revenue standpoint? And then we'll put in what we know right now about the leads that you've got and the clients that we have.
Mhm.
That's a baseline for revenue. Then there's one other layer for budgeting revenue, and that is how do we intend to get leads and convert them,
Gotcha.
right? And how many do we intend to get? Hey, welcome back to the Cash Flow Podcast with me, Pam Pryor. Glad to have you here where we talk about everything money related in your business. So without further ado, let's hop right in. And welcome back to the Cash Flow Podcast. I'm so glad to see you. Another exciting lineup. We're going to start with a little bit of news out of Spotify, which is pretty interesting. Then we're going to jump into another local brewery and IPA. I can't get away from it. And then finally, Francis and I are going to talk about where do you even start when it's time to create a budget for your business? I think that's a question that trips up a lot of entrepreneurs. And as a result, they never actually get to it. So we're going to dive into that today and show you how straightforward it is to really just get that thing rolling early on in your business. So without further ado, let's jump into the news. All right, in our news segment, Spotify has caught up with the rest of the world. I listen to all of my podcasts. I either watch them on YouTube or I listen to them on Apple Podcasts. And if I have a premium membership, which I do to a couple, you've heard me talk about Bankless. I'm a premium member there. And then there are a couple of Wondery podcasts I listen to. So I'm a premium member there. And what happens is I get both, well, not both, I get all of my feeds from the premium feed. So a lot of times what you get if you're a premium member is you'll get an episode early or you'll get an extra episode. And those things just stream through and show up on Apple. Apparently in the Spotify world, it did not work that way. So in Spotify, if you were a premium member for one of the podcasts there, you actually had to go someplace else to get your premium content. But Spotify has now, and this is in Mashable. I don't know if you all get Mashable. Really cool newsletter. They do a little bit of advertising, but you can kind of see that and get it out of the way. But really good, interesting stuff with a lot of different categories. I've been following Mashable for probably about 3 years now and find it really useful as a news source. So anyway, Spotify has finally synced their feeds so that creators can display all their free and subscriber or premier content in one feed. So you as a Spotify user, if you're a premium listener to Bankless podcast or I don't know, Cash Flow podcast, you can automatically get all the extra premium stuff right there on your Spotify feed without having to jump elsewhere. So Francis caught this, and I think it is a big deal, and I think it puts Spotify maybe back in the running with Apple podcast. What do they call it? The podcast, Apple Podcasts, uh, because that's really the only reason I left Spotify. Now that I think about it, I didn't realize that's what I was doing, but it was inconvenient to do that. And in Apple, I could just had one nice seamless interface. So that is an interesting piece of news, and it'll be interesting to see if that like evens the field with those two again.
Yeah.
So there's your news for the week, folks. If you're a Spotify user, good news for you. Are you ready for our brew segment today?
I am.
Another fancy IPA. So we're staying local, and Conshohocken Brewery, which I don't think we've done before, is where our beer is from today, and it's called the Type A IPA, which I love because I think we're probably both Type A's.
I think so.
I think maybe that's a fact. Now, interestingly, there's not a lot of information about the brewery itself. Now, Conshohocken is about 30 minutes from here, 35 minutes from here.
Not too far from me.
Yeah, oh, that's right. You live right nearby.
Yeah.
They apparently have 4 locations they do events in, but I don't know if that means they own the locations, and they don't have any pictures or talk about kind of how the thing came together to know who the brewers are and when it got started and all of that. So I'm going to sign up for the newsletter because I think we'll probably get some information there.
We'll have to get out there
We'll
for
have to get out there. So I'm excited
sure.
about this. This one has some of the hops that we've talked about that I end up really liking, as it turns out: Citra, Mosaic, and Simcoe. And it's balanced. The malts that it's balanced by are Pilsner and Pale Ale. Pilsner and where'd it go? Pale and Pilsner. So I think I like the Pilsner malts better. I'm discovering as well because it's a little less dark beer like.
Which is interesting. Do you like the Pilsner normally?
Pilsner is actually what I grew up on.
Yeah?
Well, first of all, we were kids in Germany, so the Kinder beer they had there, which was non-alcoholic beer, was Pilsner based.
Gotcha.
So I got that taste early on. And then when I was in high school, no, not high school, I did not drink in high school. When I was working or in college, maybe a little later, back in the day, the age was in Delaware was 20. It was before they had a federal age. New Jersey was 18. Delaware was 20. Oh, buddy, that's adorable.
That was a nice little cuddle.
Yeah, that was a good cuddle. New Jersey was 18 and Delaware was 20. Maryland was 18. And I
Mm.
went to the University of Delaware, which was right on the Delaware-Maryland border. So we would run down the road to Maryland and get our beer at the, I wasn't even 18 yet at that point, but we'd get it right at, they very wisely put a liquor store right across the border so that all those 18 and 19-year-olds from the University of Delaware could go pick up beer. And I was a
Gotcha.
Pilsner drinker then. So I've always liked them. Um, that's actually when I think beer, Pilsner's what I think of because of that. This is more
That's so
craft
interesting.
beer to
Yeah.
me. It's like a different theme almost. So I'm excited about this. I've actually had one of these before. I'm not remembering right now exactly, how it felt, but kind of cool can, which you all saw the picture of if you're watching on YouTube. It's actually a hop that they have
Yeah.
shown on the can, and it's very cool colors. So I think we want to give this one a try. Let's see if it has anything about the. I may have to look up. It's a 7% ABV. It does not talk about its bitterness rating though, so we'll have to let it know what its bitterness rating is, I think. So we will save that. But I like their packaging a lot. One of the ones I want to try from them is called the Hawk Never Die,
Sounds cool.
which is interesting. I don't know if that's like a triple or what, but that's very interesting. The Hawk Will Never Die, Hazy IPA. That's what I did not see when I was picking up the beers for today's episode. All right, so let's give this guy a try.
I'm getting pinned down here,
You
so you
are
might have to
pinned
do
down. I'm
the
going to have to do the
open.
pour. He is wanting some attention. All right, so what do you think of the look? Yeah, definitely Pilsner clear.
Very clear.
Yeah,
Not
look at
hazy in
that.
any way.
Wow, that looks like a Pilsner.
It's like apple juice.
Yeah, it does almost look like a sparkling apple juice.
Yeah.
Good piney smell, not too citrusy
Not
at
bad at
all.
all. No. Ooh, cheers.
I forgot.
Dink it.
There we go.
It's nice. The
What is
hops come
that
in
taste?
a little bit later. I think it is the pine.
Yeah, almost too much.
Yeah.
It's good. Don't get me wrong. This one's a very good beer. Um, I do get the dry a little bit later, but that's good. It's a
Hmm.
nice dry. It's a perfect like finishing. Diego wants some now.
No.
Mm-mm.
No. I must
No
protect
beer for
you.
you, Mister. Protect all of us. No beer for you. It's I think it is pine. It's a very pine. You don't generally, when they say it's got pine, you don't generally feel that it's.
I'm trying to think of anything else I taste in there though. And I don't like, you know what I
There's
mean?
nothing else.
It's pine and hoppy and that's about all I'm
That's about
getting.
it. I'm it's interesting. It's hard to drink it kind of out of context when we
Mhm.
film. Um,
At 10 o'clock in
at
the
10
morning.
o'clock in the morning, where it's 5 o'clock somewhere. So there's that. I like it. I don't love it.
I'm not a big fan.
So my P.B.K.P.I on this one, which is Pam's Beer KPI, where 1 is you could put it in front of me and I won't touch it, and 5 is I will hunt it down all over the world. And I don't like to do 3 a lot, but this
Hmm.
is a 3 for me because I think with the right meal, I would really like this. The meal would be something that was I have no idea why I'm thinking of this, but like a sweet potato soup.
Really?
I have no idea where that came from, except that we just had some from our wonderful friend Elizabeth. But I
It's
think
a fall beer.
this would taste really good with that.
Yeah, I think like a
A
bisque, like a
chili.
creamy bisque or a chili.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah,
but
it's a fall beer. It's
you
that you're
know,
just getting that chill in the air.
because I think the other thing that we were tasting, it's like it's weird. It almost has like a woody
Hmm.
type of like undertone to it. You know what I mean?
It does.
I'm sitting at a 2,
You're a
I think.
two.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm three. So I would, if I saw it on a menu, I could order it if I had the right thing with it, I think.
I think this would go well also with a burger. Like a
Ah,
burger,
yes.
bacon, cheese,
Well,
a little bit of
now I want that.
tomato.
I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
go order lunch now.
But I
Five
feel like,
Guys.
right, a burger would go really well with this
Yeah.
beer.
We'll have a Five Guys at 11 o'clock in the morning. How's
There
that?
you go.
Cheers.
Cheers.
All right, guys, that's it.
You
That
gave
is
him
the
one
Type
taste and he's
A.
fighting for
I
it.
know. I know. We're going to be in trouble for the rest of our lives on YouTube now. But Type A IPA, definitely a Type A. You know
Yeah.
what? It tastes like a Type A, doesn't it? It's like a little high strung, a little
Yeah.
tense.
Really in your face,
Yeah, like,
punchy.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it tastes like, a Type A.
So
There we
really good
go.
job naming it.
Really good job naming it.
Yeah.
I love it. All righty.
But now jumping into the scaling or failing segment. Last week we really touched on the budgeting personally
Mm-hmm.
and all of the kind of thought that goes into that, how impactful it can be. And we really kind of broke down the personal side of the budget and how influential it can be on your
Mm-hmm.
overall financial health. I think diving into the business aspect more now today
Yeah,
is
the
really,
business
really good.
budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think this is one of those things that people think is harder than it is. Now,
Hmm.
I don't want to imply that accounting, bookkeeping is easy and blah, 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 but budgeting, a couple things about it. One is, I think budget's that nasty word people think of as like a constraint. It's going to tell me how much I can spend.
Yeah.
And we kind of flipped that on its head last week. If you missed that episode, pop back and listen to that. It's really more an allowance. It's like, what do we think is going to happen? And
Hmm.
based on whether it does or doesn't happen,
Yeah.
how are we going to spend our money? And that's something that we really want to get our hands around. So I'm going to take you through what I take my clients through when I'm first meeting them, and we know that a top priority is to get a budget or a forecast in place.
I love it.
So if you're ready for a quiz, I'm going to dive in with my little notebook here.
Quiz me. I haven't studied.
And
I've never been
that's
good at pop quizzes.
these are always better if you haven't studied too, because what we try and do, as you know, when in my business, is not make people feel like, oh my God, I have to fill out forms. I have
Yeah.
to da da da. Da. So what I like to do is
Finance
real
is fun.
finance is fun for me. We make it fun for you. What I like to do is have a conversation that feels just like you're talking about your business,
Yeah.
but I'm getting out of you everything I need to do a budget. Okay, so tell me a little bit about, and I'll tell you my logic, but I wouldn't normally say this to somebody I'm talking to. I want to find out what the revenue streams are here. So I'm going to ask him to tell me a little bit about his business and how it makes money. So tell me about your business and how you make money from your clients.
Yeah. So we do advertising support and strategy, also development. We do content creation on social media management, overall marketing strategy. We offer embedded CMO retainer packages. We also offer project-based marketing work, and then we offer video and production.
Okay, so I'm going to break this into a few categories and tell me if I heard correctly.
Yeah.
I hear, and did you say podcasts?
Well, yeah, we do podcasts too. There we go.
There we go. All right, so we have sort of I'm trying to break this down into sort of some streams, and
Hmm.
we have some project work,
Yeah.
and project work is the kind of thing that it comes in. It's a particular type of thing. Give me an example of what a project would be.
Quick website updates or
There you
something
go.
along those
Okay,
lines.
so a quick website update, et cetera. Those are sort of going to pop in and out. We really can't predict them,
Yeah.
right? So we're going to put that in the what I call the other category as far as our ability to kind of predict it.
Yeah.
But then you said that you do retainer,
Yeah.
like a CMO type work, which is a chief marketing officer,
Hmm.
and that's where you do advisory work.
Advisory, strategy. Yeah.
Okay. But it's really more, you're just advising, reviewing, working with them. They're doing the work of that. So this is what we would call sort of a done.
Done with you.
Done with you. So you do a little bit with them in
Yeah.
that.
And then
Okay.
we also have a version of that that's done for you as well.
Perfect. Then you have the done for you, which would involve all of these other things, the advertising, the development of the content, the social media
Hmm. Creative,
platform
all that.
posting, the creative, and then video production, podcast production would run in that sort of done for you pile,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, as you're getting out of the gate, as we're getting out of the gate, are most of the initial customers falling into one or of these three categories?
It's probably an even split between retainer and project based, I would say.
Okay, so retainer. So really your retainer is both the CMO advisory. It's like almost like you have layers in the retainer.
Yeah.
And done with you or done do it yourself is all strategy. And then as you add these other little layers, the price goes up. It's almost not really a la carte, but kind of.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
kind of the word that came to mind in my mind to describe it.
Based on an a la carte menu. Okay,
Hmm.
perfect. So if they want everything done for them and don't want to worry, it's this price. If they're handling their social media and their content development, you might just be testing their ads or doing their video production, whatever it might
Yeah.
be. Okay. Now, have you thought through at this point the pricing on each of these sort of a la carte items?
Yeah. So, well, we've worked on this a little bit, and
Mm-hmm.
it is a interesting process because, as you have come to know, I tend to underprice.
Mm-hmm. Not an uncommon thing.
Yeah.
Not an uncommon thing.
And that goes into the mindset of imposter syndrome and
Mhm.
having to go through those barriers of the mental blocks of I am worth this much.
Right.
It's a mental kind of coaching aspect of things, and that's why the money mindset
So
aspect
important.
of this is so
Jeez.
important.
It's
Yeah,
it's critical. A-
but
And I'd say you're really way up the EQ scale on that, but it goes to my whole spiel that I do about the fact that you're not charging for what you do,
yeah,
right? It's not like we want to charge somebody, I'm going to work this many hours and it's going to be this much per hour, and that's because it takes me this much time.
yeah,
We want to charge, and we don't want to charge like astronomically because that's silly, but there is some value that your client's getting out of this.
yeah,
Like they're escaping making mistakes, not knowing what questions to ask, not having the bandwidth to actually get it done,
hmm,
paying for a lot of training that doesn't get used. When you add all of these things up, that adds up to a big number for a client, especially in this marketing area. I know because I've spent millions on it
yeah,
before I met you. Not millions. I don't know, not
maybe,
millions, but so there's some value there that they're like literally they're making money by not spending like $50,000.
hmm,
Now you're not going to charge $50,000 for website design, needless to say, but you're also not going to charge. Oh my God, it'll take me a day and my rate's $100 an hour.
yeah,
You're not going to charge 800 for it. That's crazy. Somewhere in between that is the pricing, and that's what we keep working on. And the other thing with pricing is we do it to control capacity,
yeah,
right? So right now we're starting out, we're bringing on clients. We're very favorably priced
hmm,
right now, really favorably. And that's awesome because people can get in the boat early and then all of a sudden go, wow, I got that kind of quality for this price. That's cool. They'll have to rise with the tide a little bit as we go,
hmm,
but as we move up that ladder, our capacity is going to get filled, and we'll use price to constrain capacity,
yeah,
right? Um, we also have another factor with price that you and I have talked about that I will share with people too. We
yeah.
haven't run into it yet, but it is a thing to keep in mind, which
I
I'm
think I
going to
know what we're
explain.
hinting at
Yep.
there.
But so you can use price to tighten the funnel a little bit because it does two things. You're always going to price low coming out of the gate.
Yeah,
It's just human nature. As you get fuller and fuller and you're busier and busier, like, oh, I need to make more in order to do this work at the quality at which I do it. So you start to raise the price. It constrains the number of people, but you're making more money.
yeah,
But then also it gives you room to then say, now I'm going to add capacity so I can do more of this, but I'm not going to bring that price back down, right? Because we are doing all this quality.
yeah.
So when we go down that road and the tendency to underprice, talk to me about what goes through your head when you're on the phone with a client and you're thinking about pricing. And I need to know this for the budget.
Yeah. So three things. I really want to assess what their business needs are and what their expectations are on the return here, right? And then secondly, I want to assess the time commitment that this project or this business is going to take from me
Hmm.
and the requirement that I'm going to need to devote to making sure that all of this is working to the best of the ability for every party that's involved.
Love it.
And then the third thing is I got to talk to Pan.
That's a lucky break.
Those are the three things that come to mind, and that's one of the benefits of having partners and
Oh
having
God, yeah,
people that
just
are.
sanity checks.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing is like it allows you to have these opportunities when you have multiple people that are
Yep,
involved in working on this. As we're scaling this new business that we're also starting as well, beside from
yep.
Forward
Besides
Press.
this one, yep.
Yeah, which is crazy.
If you don't have two businesses, have three. It's like
Yeah,
dogs.
just why not?
Have three
Yeah,
dogs, three businesses.
you have the
Yep.
three dog
Three dogs,
theory,
three dogs. We
right?
have pretty soon we'll have four, so
Yeah.
we need four businesses,
Yeah.
right? So
But
yeah,
as we're scaling this, like having the ability to say, "Oh, I want to talk to my partners and see what makes sense
right.
for this." It really gives you time to walk away from that situation and not commit to something right there
Yep.
because a lot of times you might commit to something and you might either overcommit on your side of things or undercommit on their
Guilty
side
as
of things.
charged.
Yeah.
I went through that probably for the first 4 years of the business.
Yeah.
I would overcommit, get drowned,
Hmm.
and clients knew it.
Yeah.
And so the fact that we have each other to talk to, and in this other partnership, you have two other people to talk to,
Yeah.
it does that. So it does kind of go, hey, dude, this is going to take some time, and you're already only sleeping 4 hours a night if
Yeah.
that's the case. But the second thing is, it it lets you get reminded of how valuable you are because we never see our own value very well,
Yeah.
and it's really easy to say, oh my God, I shouldn't charge this much. And this happens with everybody I know.
Hmm.
So I'm going to use in our budget not a really aggressive pricing uh, stream because it is really your game, but what I would call a moderate one in the prices that we're using right now.
Yeah.
So talk to me about here's the next thing we need to understand is how many clients at full capacity right now, if they were full retainer done for you clients, could you handle right now at once, simultaneously?
With the team currently, probably 5 full on retainer.
Perfect. Okay. And full on retainer would include a podcast as well as all the other things.
If we're talking about everything done for you that we offer under the sun, it would
Hmm.
be, podcast, video production, audio production,
Social
editing,
media clips,
yeah,
editing,
social media clips, posting,
everything you do
management,
for our podcast here.
everything. Yeah.
Yep.
And that's
Plus
the
email.
full, yeah, email marketing,
Yep.
email follow-ups, advertising, web dev, SEO. Uh, there's so many things that go into
Yep.
that. And that's kind of the other mindset
Good.
is you with marketing, you don't really realize how much is actually going into
No,
all
you
these
don't.
things. When I'm explaining to clients why we're pricing certain things sometimes the way that we are,
Yep.
the thought process is everybody has to be on the same page on a consistent basis of this is all working for the long-term goal.
Hmm.
And some people with marketing, they don't understand what actually goes into it
Right.
and the
I had to learn the hard way.
yeah, and the expectations that you can associate. I had one
They go flip a
person.
switch, make the ad work.
Exactly. I had one person who the on the other side of things was, "Oh, I only want to run ads." And sometimes for certain businesses, brand awareness and social campaigns and different things along those lines,
Make more
it
sense.
makes way more sense than
Hmm.
running paid advertising because, when you compare there's a really saturated market in
Hmm.
the advertising world on LinkedIn, on Facebook, all these platforms now, and you're competing with brands that can put $100,000
Yep. A
into an
day
advertising
or
campaign.
more.
Yeah,
Yep.
and when you're competing against those people, you have to build out a overall strategy that is working to build the machine.
That still gets you a pattern interrupt, but doesn't cost you $100,000 because you don't have it. 100,000 a
Exactly.
month.
Yeah.
And I really like the way you put that. So the the hardest thing I think I find certainly in my business and the other business and what you is when you have somebody that calls and says, "I want advertising."
Yeah.
And you're like, "Oof, that's not what you need." In my case, it's somebody calling saying, "I need my taxes done." I'm like, "That's not what you need.
Hmm.
You need," and you know that, but you don't want to tell them that like that.
Yeah.
You have to do it, and you have a really good way of doing this, saying, "Have you considered?" And one of the things we might want to look at is so 4 full DFY packages, and I'm going to put a price tag on that if we were doing all of that for somebody who is, say, our size.
Yeah.
And this will vary on complexity, on how much material they already have, etc. But let's just say that that is what, a $6,000 a month
6 to 10
package.
depending, yeah. Six
Yeah.
to ten
Okay.
depending on the situation. It
Good.
depends on how many,
How much it
how much is
is, how
going into
much, or is it
this.
daily? Is it multiple times a day?
Mm,
Is it, we're taking the advertising from zero to
scaling it all
something,
the way up. Are
scaling
we
all the way
taking
up?
over
Is there a
campaigns?
website? Or are we creating it from scratch?
How many website edits are we going to have to do?
And are we recording and producing your podcast,
Mhm.
video, all on YouTube, etc.? So
And I would say probably if we're doing everything in that area, we would probably be closer to 10.
to 10.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And I think that sounds right. I think that
Yeah.
sounds light, but I think that's right for kind of startup.
Mhm.
So, if in a perfect world, all we had was full clients and we had five of them, it's $50,000 a month at any point in time.
Yeah.
Now, in reality, we don't have full time clients. We have, most of them are bits and pieces of this.
Mhm.
So the amounts that we're charging them range from what, 1,500 a month to 10,000 a month based on their size,
Yeah.
right? And how
Like
much
some of
of
the
it.
lower tier
Yeah.
entry level clients are around that 15 to
Yeah, it's
2500
15.
range. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's pretty much, I think, a minimum ish
We
type
wouldn't want
price.
to work with anybody on a retainer base, probably less than 15.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah.
It's not a
It just doesn't
logical
make
business
sense. Yeah.
model, right? It's not a logical business model because of the fixed costs you have to cover.
Yeah.
So if we had, how many of these $1,500 a month clients could we handle at one time?
In with the five,
No, forget the five for a minute.
forget
We're
the
going a
five.
different
Gotcha.
route. I'm going to
Just
do a
only
different
that.
mix. Yep.
Okay. If we were to have just those 1500, we could probably do doubled up and we could probably handle 10.
Just 10?
10 to 15 is
Yeah,
where
that's
I
what
would
I'm
probably be
thinking.
at. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I would say, let's go 15 because I think it's probably more like 15,
Yeah.
for how much work goes into those first five.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we have pricing ranging from 15
I
to,
guess the other thing to consider with that too is we couldn't take 15 at one time in the beginning, right? And by that I mean we have to scale them
great point.
into certain things. Entry level wise,
Because
there's a
we
lot
don't
more
do an
time.
onboarding fee.
Yeah, we don't have an onboarding fee with this. So
hmm
one of the things to consider is entry level, the first week and a half to 2 weeks, we're head first going in on it, and
It's
then we're
like they're
able
a
to.
DFY client. It's like they're an
Exactly.
everything client.
Exactly. And
And
then
then
we're able
once
to
you
scale
get,
that back.
yeah, so you need to leave a certain amount of room for onboarding that particular client. But once everything's humming,
Mhm.
ongoing 15 of those type a month. So
Yeah.
what we'll do in the budget, just so you know how this works, is we're going to have a little variable,
Mhm.
and it's going to say, I'm going to assume we're going to have this many DFY clients each month
Yeah.
and this many full clients or partial clients each month. Not partial client, but partial package
Mhm.
clients each month. And we can play with those then based on what actually happens.
Gotcha.
So we're going to have essentially a column based budget that's going to show revenue. And it's going to say, oh, what's our revenue if we have five full time clients? What happens if we start one each month over these months? What happens if we have two full time clients and we're adding, two part time
Mhm.
clients a month? How does that map itself out from a revenue standpoint? And then we'll put in what we know right now about the leads that you've got and the clients that we have.
Mhm.
That's a baseline for revenue. Then there's one other layer for budgeting revenue, and that is, how do we intend to get leads and convert them,
Gotcha.
right? And how many do we intend to get and convert?
Yeah.
And that's what we're not there yet
Yeah.
because we basically, it's all referral right now and working beautifully. But once we get past that first set of referral leads, what is our marketing plan going to be?
Mhm.
And in thinking about that, when you think about marketing for the business, where is your head around that? What are you thinking?
So I'm thinking probably we would be doing a lot of brand awareness, kind of like we're doing for you.
Okay.
We would be doing advertising on social platforms, and by that I mean post boosting, different things along those lines.
Okay.
Not full on advertising campaigns. And then also developing some lead magnets. One of the cool things with this business is that we leverage AI in a lot of different ways, and creating lead magnets that people can use to get into leveraging
Love it.
AI in the right ways for their business,
Love
and
it.
then also offering the we can teach you how to do this. We can also do this for you.
Got it. We
Yeah.
can teach you. And one of the things I'd say that the post boosting, one of the hardest things sometimes for entrepreneurs to understand is that going into a full scale advertising blitz, which does make sense for some
Yeah.
businesses, does not always make sense for
No.
every business and probably doesn't for ours.
I mean, yeah, and the one thing that we've run into is just from, testing and different experiences that we've had with advertising. Some advertising areas just aren't going to work for certain
Yeah.
businesses.
Some businesses aren't meant for the advertising piece.
Yeah.
They grow better with awareness or and that's the cool thing about you is like you could sell an advertising package and a lot of people do this and it
Hmm.
annoys me, but they haven't really addressed the fact that this type of a thing has not ever worked really well
Hmm.
for a small business.
Hmm.
Like maybe, if you're, a massive accounting firm, it might work because people know your name. You're PricewaterhouseCoopers. Sure, advertise.
Yeah.
But it's not going to work for, Pam Pryor Group or Priorities Group because people who you're not going to be able to compete
Yeah.
with the others. And that's crazy to go out there and compete. That said, on some of the social media platforms, occasionally we'll boost a post and that will reach a little further beyond our normal audience
Hmm.
and pull people in. And although you do both types, in our case for the marketing team, it probably makes sense to just do the post,
Yeah.
the boosting.
Yeah, for that, and then the other thing is establishing ourselves as authorities in these
Hmm.
fields. One of the goals and the importance of developing a personal brand has become so evident in the work that you and I do together,
Hmm.
but then and also the work that I'm doing with this other venture as we're
Hmm.
scaling this and developing all these processes and building the personal branding aspect directly into the marketing plan from the get go is one of the key
It's
things
your
that we're leaning
values,
on.
it's
Yeah.
your personality, it's all of those things.
Yeah. And that's one of the cool things that having these types of platforms like a podcast, YouTube channels,
Hmm.
videos, social channels, that's what allows people to understand who you are
Hmm.
and being able to work with the people that they want to work with. There's thousands, hundreds of thousands of people out there that are offering marketing services,
Hmm.
but not everybody's going to be able to work with you the same way that we
That
do.
we
Not
would.
everybody's
Same
going
with
to.
finance and
Yeah,
accounting,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And we may be for you, we may not be for you,
Yeah.
but you'll figure that out. Now, you said, brand awareness, advertising, lead magnets. We can teach you stuff and be established as authority in the fields. Translate that for us into what does that look like from a spending standpoint? What are you actually doing to do those things?
Low cost spending for marketing wise, aside from the strategized social boosting campaigns that we
Hmm.
would be doing. But aside from that, we have all the equipment, all the softwares, and there isn't really much added cost, thankfully, with where we would need to invest in for the marketing
Got
of
it.
this venture.
So most of what needs to be done because you're a marketing firm, you already have the stuff, the accounts, the software to be able to do that. And most of us entrepreneurs, of course, don't. So,
Exactly. And the other awesome thing that we've run into is with this other venture, just like to kind of breach that topic of it, we would be offering specifically videos, brand videos, different things along those lines,
mhm,
but in a cinematic way.
which we are getting at priorities. I'm very
Exactly.
excited.
I'm really excited to do that for
Hmm.
priorities. But the cool thing is that working with people that are so
Oh, this stuff
established
is
in these
amazing.
fields,
Yep.
we have access to so many things. Like we're going out to Austin next week
Yep.
for Scalable Live. We're going to be shooting some content out there. You're
Hmm.
going to be speaking on stage. We're going to be shooting content for that. And one of the awesome things is we have this repository of inventory that we all have collectively in a sheet. And I went through the list and I said, "Hey, I need this and this for this shoot next week that I'm doing with
Wow.
you." And I was able to grab those instead of having to go online and buy all this stuff, right?
Love
So we
that. You
have,
check them out.
yeah,
You're
exactly.
in. Yep. I love
We have
that.
the equipment and we have the access to that. So there's not a lot of additional investment that we need to make.
Yeah, and that's a benefit of being a marketing firm and an AV firm all at the same time. So,
Exactly.
what I'm going to do for budget there is a little bit around software,
Hmm.
like a monthly software fee based on
Yeah,
what we're already spending, and then a little bit for advertising, but not a huge amount then.
I wouldn't. Yeah,
Okay.
I think the main would be just the softwares that we're leveraging right now, and
Mhm.
then keeping the stuff that you need,
Yep, there.
websites, software costs, different things along those lines.
Okay. The other thing we have talked about is salary. We've already had a segment on that, so we're
Yeah.
going to budget the salary in based on that conversation. The next thing I see on this is like travel and entertainment.
Mhm.
So, what kind of travel will you need to be doing for forward press media? Or do you think might be on the agenda just in the next 12 months or so?
In the next 12 months, I think something that would be awesome is to find one or two conferences that might be good opportunities to, one, get the brand out there more, get the name out there more, but then two, to continue to excel and drive
Hmm.
our main success drivers, which is just the knowledge that we have. And going to these conferences, experiencing this, and learning from the people that are there, I think is
Love it.
really important. And being in these areas also, like what we found from past experiences at conferences, it just gives you a different energy as
Hmm.
you're going through these, and it keeps that excitement going for
Yeah,
your
great
business.
point.
So I think adding those types
Think
of things
two,
in,
three
I
in a
think two
year,
would be
two in
good.
a
One to
year.
two would be good a year as
Okay.
we kind of start. One of the other things to consider though is, with this business, the brand business and the video business is, we want to get out there as much as possible and network with as many people as possible because it's such a visual thing and it's
Yep.
such a thing where you need to communicate with people.
Yep.
So we're building into our strategy just from the jump, going to as many of these locally and then across the US as
As you
possible
can.
as we can.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's really good. That was going to be my question there. And the other thing that we did this year that I think was really cool is you've had other people in your field, and a very dear friend of mine was like, "Yeah," I said, we're doing this business, and we know that you're remarkably good at this business. We'd like to learn a little bit about the business side of it.
Yeah.
Could Francis come help you on a particular event?" And he's like, "Hell yes, I'd love to
Yeah.
meet him." So that kind of networking now you know Eric. Eric knows you
Yeah. Shout
guys.
out Eric Magana.
Yeah, shout out Eric Madonna who did I always say this, he did the video production for my very first event that was
Outstanding stuff.
2018,
Yeah.
and I still use that footage to this day. It
Hmm.
was stunning.
Yeah.
And, I'm like, "Oh man, you got to go be with this guy because that's what we want to be producing here." And he just shared just completely open with all of what he does and how he does it. But more of that would be cool. Invite people to join you,
Yeah.
you to join people, because quite frankly, it becomes a bit of a network out there, especially in that AV field where all of you can raise the tide for all the ships.
Exactly. And with our biggest thing is we're big dreamers
Hmm.
and we have high standards that we
Yes,
set,
I
right?
know. I've seen the stuff.
And we had a meeting last night going through the questions that we had gotten from
Okay,
you
yep.
specifically to develop these agreements and different things. And
How did those work out, those questions?
they were really, really good. It
Good.
really was. It was good to sit down, get everybody on the same page, make sure that we were all aligned. What
Awesome.
we did, it was funny enough, but what we ran into was we're all so like-minded that we all had the same answers for a lot of the questions that you would
That's
expect
when
to
you're
not
doing a
have.
partnership.
Yeah.
That's a really good thing because most partnerships fall apart because people don't address those values and what do you want out of this questions way up front.
Yeah, and we've been
So,
doing that since before. And one of the things that we all kind of realized last night was we don't want it to just be a business. We want it to be an empire. And the
ooh,
goal is to
I
really
love that.
develop something that, we can leverage to, one, support the people around us and uplift, the other creators that we know. But two, one of the things that we were talking about was it might make sense as we're doing a lot of video content and different things like that to buy an audio firm or something along those lines
Yeah,
down the line.
a lot of M&A
Yeah,
opportunities here
exactly.
for sure.
Hmm.
That's a great point. I hadn't even considered that.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, very, very, very good point. And there's some complexity because each of the three of you have businesses and you're creating this partnership, and we'll have to
Yeah.
at some point decide, is it one big business
Mhm.
and everybody just owns a little piece of it, or do we keep doing these? It's just a bunch of really fun stuff to address kind of as we move on. So that's really cool. Plus, it also occurred to me when I saw the video from last night that you sent me,
Yeah.
you are a beautifully diverse
We
firm.
are.
You got all the bases covered.
We're all minorities,
Yep,
yeah.
it's we definitely gotta file the paperwork for minority-owned
Yeah.
business, for sure, because that is a really important thing in this day and age where when you do work for larger companies, they actually avoid significant penalties when they, meet their I'm not gonna call it a quota, but when you've got really high quality to put in there
Exactly.
and you happen to also be a minority, there is an advantage in the sell process.
Yeah, and one of the things that we actually have realized as well is, like, one of the companies that they work with now currently,
Mhm.
and I don't wanna name any names,
Yep.
but they're just a quota to that company.
Huh.
you
And they're
know?
getting that quality?
Yeah, and
Jeez.
they're getting also severely underpaid and overused, but
Okay.
they're just a quota because they're minorities.
So you gotta watch out for that. This is
Exactly.
that downside of the quota thing that I've always talked about is, I don't wanna be hired because I'm a gay woman. I
Mhm.
wanna be hired because I'm the best fucking CFO out there.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm a gay woman.
Mhm.
That's cool. However, put me up against somebody as good as me if you can find them. Um, I'll use my advantage. If
Mhm.
that's an advantage to if you make money because you hire me instead of somebody else, cool. But if they're better than I am, that's who you hire.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I look at it. And you just make sure you cull the whole field, not just the field that everybody's been able to play on. Not everybody's been able to play on
Yeah.
forever. So it's such a touchy subject. Can't believe I'm even bringing up a controversial subject like that. Okay, so I have travel and entertainment. The next thing I have, how about licenses? Anything we have to get around authority to use things. The reason I'm asking is drone.
Yeah, so the partners both have their FAA certified
Okay,
drone pilots.
is
I'm
that an
not.
annual renewal?
I think that is probably an annual renewal, but the
Okay.
only thing with that is so many things have changed in the drone space over the
Mm-hmm.
past couple of months,
Okay. Oh, really?
over the
That
past
recently?
year. Yeah, so it's a constantly changing thing. It's just one of those things we have to actively
Mm-hmm.
monitor to realize how much the cost might be
Okay.
for that.
Cool. And then taxes, we know we've already talked about taxes before. Those actually I just budget with some
Hmm.
math. That's not a big deal.
Insurance.
Insurance was my next question.
Yeah.
Yeah, to me, the insurances that we need to cover are general business liability for
Yeah.
sure. Is there any special insurance that comes with the drone?
Yeah, they both, I think, or both or one of them has to have insurance specifically if they're actively using and flying
Okay,
the
it's almost
drones.
pilot
Yeah,
insurance.
exactly.
Okay.
And then in addition to that, not specifically with the drone, but for the tech, we would definitely want insurance on
The equipment,
all of the
property
equipment. Yeah,
insurance.
exactly.
Okay.
Because looking at that list, it was kind of awesome, but it was stressful realizing, oh shit, we have like $80,000 worth of equipment that we
Bingo.
have, probably more.
Yeah. Real
And
property insurance.
yeah,
And that is a very, really important thing. And I would make that, in this particular business, I would spend significantly for that. And just to talk through these, so general business liability insurance is basically if somebody sues you because you ruined their wedding video, or if a venue, for example, you're doing an event and they're not happy with what they see and they decide to sue. Not that that's ever going to happen with us, mind you. But this is the insurance. General business liability is the insurance that kicks in to cover
yeah,
those sort of things. So when your business causes harm to somebody else, property insurance is when somebody causes harm to your property and then you get refunded for it,
gotcha.
basically. And you'll want to make sure the deductible is not too high, right?
Yeah,
Because what'll happen is you can go, "Oh, I want to get it as cheap as I can. I only want to pay $50 a month." But then when you lose, a $3,000 piece of equipment and find out your deductible is $3,000, it's like, well, that was useless. I just
yeah,
spit money. So there's a real balance there that we should talk about when we, if you haven't already gotten that we should talk about there.
yeah,
Pilot license, I'm sure insurance is pretty straightforward. Working my way down the P&L here. When you do work for people on any of these, particularly the done for you, is there any like variable cost? And by that I mean is if you're doing the work for a new client and it's done for you, are there certain things that you outsource and will always spend to have outsourced? And
um,
therefore there's some amount of cost that comes with every client.
I think that, so right now we haven't run into
Okay,
that
so not yet.
because of the partnership that you and I have. We have access to the team that we
Everything we
use.
need,
Yeah.
right?
But I think as we scale, that's definitely something that we should continue to have on our radar,
Yep.
because I could see that potentially coming into play.
Hmm.
One of the things with the business is, I'm really good the video editing side of things. I'm really getting comfortable in that space. Specifically, hiring an audio engineer for certain projects in different aspects of film is important as well, and
Hmm.
that could be a variable cost that we might need to consider as we're doing larger scale
Got
products.
it. You'd outsource that particular piece of it, make sure until you've either learned it or whatever. And then to me, there's a point at which we'd say, now we need to hire people, like
Mm,
actual employees.
yeah,
And so there's some level of clients, probably above what we just outlined, the 5 or the 15,
Yeah.
where I am going to actually map in contractor cost.
Mhm.
Um, and with us in particular, it's interesting because we need to, if we've got a lot of opportunities here. So, like, we have resources at Priorities Group who are employees, and right now they're supporting both businesses as one thing, but that may be an opportunity for additional work for them
Yeah.
if that starts to become even more, more stuff.
Yeah.
So, and other people that we know that do this kind of work. So that's very cool. Plus, there's Fiverr for some things. There's Upwork for administrative things,
Yeah.
that kind of
We
stuff.
also thankfully have a connection with the Career Center at Temple, so we can get interns whenever we need to.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah.
Are those free?
Well,
Not
a
quite.
lot of interns look for paid positions, but
Oh,
they're
cool.
entry level. It's like,
It's
15 to
minimum
twenty
wage.
dollars an
Yeah.
hour.
Okay. Good deal.
Nothing crazy
And
with
it
that.
benefits everybody.
It benefits everybody,
Yeah.
and we also, we love to support
All right.
people that are in that kind of
Yep.
area of their life as well,
Yep.
and
And I
give them
love
the
I love the
mentorship.
work also you're doing for a couple of not-for-profits right now.
Yeah.
And this is something too, folks. I am a big don't barter person. Like,
Hmm.
do not barter. Money's there for a reason. It keeps relationships solid and it makes no question about the value that's being exchanged.
Yeah.
However, what you guys are doing right now, which I think is really, really commendable and benefits the business, is doing a free not-for-profit cinematic
Yeah.
creation that's going to be an example of the work that you three are doing.
Hmm.
And that's going to become marketing material for you. So it's a win-win for everybody. And a
Yeah.
not-for-profit that really needs some exposure gets that exposure. So
Yeah.
shout out to you for
Thank you.
helping a soldier's hands.
Yeah.
And then Wen has designed already the
This
new logo
outstanding
for them,
logo. Yeah.
which is really awesome. So this particular charity gets to up its game at a major time in the charity's life,
Hmm.
and they don't have to put this kind of money out, which they don't have
Yeah.
to put out. Every dollar that comes in, they put into packages to get out to soldiers and sailors.
Yeah. And
So
one of the things, with one of our big focuses is to be able to continue to do projects like this and
awesome.
continue to drive.
Like scholarship projects, the rest of the business pays
Exactly.
for.
And like, there's thankfully we have a lot of connections and benefits where, we'll be flying out to Portland in a couple of months to shoot some content for that specific
Cool.
cinematic video, interviewing one of the people that was behind starting that
Are
whole
you
foundation.
really?
Yeah. And we'll be coming back.
Not the guy she met on the plane.
Yeah, yeah, we're gonna go out to Portland. So Portland is where one of our partners grew up, and he goes out there pretty frequently.
And he's going to talk to us.
Yeah, and so he's gonna sit down. We're
This
gonna
is
do an interview with
this is
him.
18 years ago now.
Yeah, it's gonna be. We're really excited about this,
Oh,
but
me too.
we're the one of the awesome things is there's no cost associated with that because he works for Delta Airlines, like in a certain capacity, so we get
Wow.
flight benefits in different ways.
That's
So there's a lot
beautiful.
of things that we are able to leverage, thankfully,
It's
where
all relationships
yeah, and this whole project is coming together because of the
of that.
relationships that we all
I
have.
love.
Yeah.
And this is interesting because one of the things, I'm going off topic a minute,
Yeah.
but this goes back to, it used to be like bad to say it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Mhm.
And I think what's happening with this generation of entrepreneurs is that's becoming a good thing.
Yeah.
It's not what you know, it's who you know. Well, it's kind of both. But the who you know isn't, oh, I have to have been born into this family and know, like me. I had a dad who worked for DuPont. So because I had a dad who worked for DuPont, I automatically got a job at DuPont, which was probably patently unfair
Mm.
to all the people who didn't have a dad who worked at DuPont. Although in Wilmington, Delaware, I think everybody's dad worked for DuPont. But that's beside the point. So I had an unfair advantage when that phrase was used in my day in the late 70s, early 80s. Now I think it's a really positive phrase.
Mhm.
It's not what you know, it's who you know, because it's in relationship building and not keeping score
Yeah.
and just doing what you do the best way you do it and seeing the opportunities to help other people. Other people then look for the opportunities to help you, and it all comes full circle. And it's
Yeah.
it's just a big part of me and my map of relationships and how much that means to me, because these are all people who've meant something in my
Mhm.
journey. And you guys should probably start a know your map yourselves,
Yeah.
right?
And like one
If
of
you
the
haven't, put it on MindMeister. Seriously, because you're gonna find 5, 6 years from now, that's a powerful
tool.
tool. And if I advise anybody starting in business now, as stupid as it sounds, is to create that dumb little mind map,
Yeah. I like that.
because
Uh,
you'll remember and you circle back to those people that really made a difference for you. It's very good.
Yeah.
And everybody doesn't go on it, but the ones who are meaningful go on it.
Yeah.
The people you really connect with.
And like just, kudos to you as well because one of the things that really shifted the way that I think about relationships is working with you. And one of the things that really shifted kind of my thought process and making sure that we're putting in is just as much as what we're getting out of
Hmm.
relationships, different things like that in business especially,
Yeah,
is, the experiences that I've had watching you work with people, watching you tie these, these connections that you have and
together.
staying focused on the relationship at its core was
Hmm.
always the driver of
It's
the
the fun
success.
part anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know when it occurred to me, but I do remember when I was in corporate going, God, I know work can be done the right way. I know business can be done the right way.
Mhm.
And in corporate, it was always, and I loved my corporate life. You know that. I
Yeah.
absolutely loved it. But it was always, what do I need to do to convince the shareholders every quarter that things are going well? And it was always profit first, profit first, profit first.
Mhm.
And I thought, God, can't we do business with people first? And that got very poo pooed in corporate. It's like, yeah, Pam, fine, have your little people world here, but be the freaking CFO and, I was going to say man up, but, and do the work
Yeah.
thing to do it's all about the money. And I was able to protect a number of groups from some of that and all, but out here, out here in the wild, um, it does feel very much more like, at least the circle that I've been blessed to be in and grow, is much more people focused,
Mhm.
and it drives higher profits.
Yeah.
And that's the point I want to drive home.
Yeah.
When you work with what you would otherwise consider a competitor and instead say, oh, what's your niche? What's my niche? How can we help each other out here? Everybody wins.
Yeah.
Somebody who would not otherwise find the right partner gets the right partner. Somebody who would not have gotten a client gets a client. And these little things, all of a sudden it hit me. I'm not an accountant. I am. I'm a brilliant accountant and CFO.
The best.
But I've always enjoyed the relationship part with my clients
Mhm.
much more, much more, as much as the actual work
Yeah.
of doing and getting them set up when I do the done for you stuff. And I think that's how you are. I think that's how our whole team is.
Yeah.
We certainly get in the grind and have days where we're just like, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. I need a break. But it's about the fact that we're all a team and we're going to drag this thing when we need to drag, and it's going to pull us when it needs to pull us. And
Yeah.
it's just really refreshing to be doing that now in my, sort of the last third of my career.
Yeah.
Um,
And like kind of the thing that you always harp on is, finances is kind of like a foxhole, right?
yeah, friend
And
in the foxhole.
having each other's back and knowing that you can trust people to
Yep,
support you in the times that you need to, knowing that you're going to support these
yep,
people in the times that they need you
yep.
to. That's that
It's a
mentality. I
big
think that
deal.
that breeds this and it's so cool because it kind of carries out and you attract those types of people
You
to
do. You don't have to
yourselves as
look
you're building
for
it.
people.
Yeah.
You find them. Like everybody knows, maybe you don't, the story of how we met.
Yeah.
And it was because of that little puppy over there. And I couldn't manage that puppy and work at the same time.
Yeah.
And you had just sold your business with your uncle,
Yeah.
or I forget
We
what the
just
details
we're
were,
trying to
decided
work it
not to
out.
do it. Yeah. And so you were helping me take care of this little guy, the white one. And you were paying attention and listening to what was going on.
Mhm.
Wen was the same thing. Wen was just kind of always around because they're a bonus child of
Yeah.
ours as well, and so they got listening and paying attention. And I'm like, "You could do this stuff. Do you want to do this stuff?" And they're like, "Yeah, I do. This is
Yeah.
great." So that's how people show up in your world without having to go, here's the job requirements, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It makes it much more collaborative, I think, which is kind of so important. And God, I am so off topic today. Another thing, if you're a business owner. So, as a business owner, what's hard is to know when to put stake in the ground
Mhm.
and when to be flexible. And we had a great example of this as a team of the three of us just yesterday, was it? One? Oh, they're on
Yeah,
their
yesterday
headphones.
morning.
Yesterday morning. And I came in and I said, I want to do this at my next speech, which is next week,
Yeah.
because I'd gotten very good advice on it and I knew the statistics were good and I wanted to test it. And your guys like, oh, hey, we got some issues with this, but how about this alternative? Does this, basically what you said was, what are your actual requirements for this?
Mhm.
And I said, I want this and this and this. And you said, okay, here's a much cheaper an easier way to do it because you don't know it's going to work yet, right,
Yeah.
Pam? And I said, no, I don't. I really think it is. We're going to do it. I was like, I know, we're going to do it. And we're going to do it cheaply and effectively. And then if it works, we'll invest in it. Like if I had just come barreling in there and said, this is what we're going to do, all that would have been missed.
Yeah.
And if you're not creating the environment where that conversation can happen, it doesn't
Yeah.
work.
And the cool thing with that type of mentality is like going back to the conversation about hiring, you
Yeah,
can train some stuff and you can't train other stuff. And being
so
able to
true.
have these types of conversations, that's something that it just is who people
Yeah, you
are.
don't want yes people.
Yeah, like I don't ever want to work with people that are just going to tell me yes because
Yep,
I want them to. I
yep,
want people that are going to continue to challenge me to do better, to drive
right.
more success, and I want people that are going to continue to adjust my point of view because those are
Bingo.
the most successful relationships that I've had in my life,
Hmm.
and those are the ones that when I look back on my not long 27 years
Yep,
that I look at and I'm like, wow, these people stand out because these are the people that have forced me to look at myself and
a
adjust
little
how I am.
differently.
Yeah.
And that's pretty darn mature. And both of you do that
Hmm.
at a very young age. Like it's crazy young that's happening now. And it's a very cool, yeah, that's going on.
Yeah.
So we certainly veered off the budget
Yeah,
topic,
we
but
went a
I
little
did
bit long
extract
there.
from you everything I need to do a first draft of a budget. So my assignment this week, you have a couple of prospective clients to talk to.
Yeah.
I have a budget to create.
Awesome.
And we need to get the same questions answered now once you guys get past this first set of questions and we get the company set up and all that. We need to ask the same questions for the other company. What's the name of the other company?
To be named.
To be
That
named.
is one
That's a
of the
really boring
things
name.
that is one of the things that was on our agenda for last night, but we ended up
You had
meeting
too
for
many
like 3
questions.
hours. Yeah.
Yeah, too many questions. So, to be named company, Forward Press Media and Priorities Group. And this is me having fun because I've always wanted to foray in multiple business ownership.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun for me to do as well. So,
It's a
thank
lot
you
of fun for
for
us.
making me part of it.
Thank you for being a part of it. Thanks for always, I mean, we talked about not saying yes to everything, but thanks for always, dreaming big with us.
Absolutely. It keeps me young. It keeps me young. And I thank you all for joining us on Cash Flow. I hope you got a lot out of this. We did a couple of tangents, but the most important thing I want you to get from this is the kind of questions you need to understand when you're starting out
Yeah.
to get this budget in place. And you're going to see how I transform that conversation into a budget. And that doesn't mean it's going to be this rigid thing that
Yeah.
we have to do. And if we don't do this, we fail. It becomes a flexible thing that makes sure that we're pointed at the target, missing the and so we can react to obstacles and we can take advantage of opportunities,
Yeah.
and we know kind of what our bumpers are. So that's what we're working on.
I'm really excited. I think that this has been an awesome, first kind of half to this season.
Awesome.
And I think that we're going to keep kicking some ass as we continue to
Beautiful.
record
As
these.
we scale,
Yeah.
not
Not
fail.
fail.
Maybe that's what we name the segment, scale
Scale,
not
not
fail.
fail. I like that.
Actually, that's really good.
That is good.
I'm going with
Especially we're
that.
going to be at Scalable next
And we're
week.
going to be at Scalable next week in Austin.
Awesome.
So, all right, awesome. Thank you guys for joining us. Hit like, hit subscribe, ask us any questions you have about your business from a finance perspective. And remember, finance is fun.
Finance is fun.
Thanks so much for watching the Cash Flow Podcast with us. We want to bring more and more of this to you, so please like, share, subscribe, comment, so that we can keep bringing more of this content to you.